decline of the culture that he loved, and hearing about the sack of Rome. And yet, Augustine led a good life, as witness that he comes down to us as Saint Augustine. So the question is, you've said this is almost impossible to reverse. You've said that even the political movement, the populist movement of the recent years, it's very complicated, unlikely to get it quite right. So if it's over, Douglas, if it's over, if in your lifetime it's over, how does Douglas Murray lead a good life? What is the definition? What components of fighting back, of resignation, do right-minded Europeans somehow or other establish some kind of analog to the Benedictine monasteries where they try to keep the culture alive? What will constitute a good life if, as you argue, it all just winds down?
My own view is that it should partly be done by living the life that we thought to be a good life until yesterday. We're very unlikely to come up with an entirely new definition or invention, very unlikely that we're going to invent new gods, very unlikely we're going to come up with new religions, very unlikely we're sitting here in Florence, very unlikely we're going to be able to do anything this good again. So why don't we have the recognition of what a good life was that was very recognizable until yesterday? Now, that can't be done. Roger Scruton and I were talking about this recently.
Roger Scruton, the great conservative philosopher.
Yeah, this can't be done by government diktat. It can't be done because the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of Great Britain says that it should be so. There are certain things they could not do that might make it easier. But this just comes from people. It comes from individuals and people leading by example. When I discuss many of the things that came up in The Strange Death of Europe, sometimes people say to me, you seem, some people say, but you don't seem as het up about it. And that must mean that you know it's over, because otherwise you would be more...
Yes, there's a difference between fight and resignation.
Yes.
There's a difference between those two.
And you work out, don't you, as an adult, what it's worth wasting yourself on, and what points you should keep making, and when you've made them enough, and when you've hit your head against that wall enough, and you just have to work it out. And I've said everything I can to try to warn my fellow countrymen and Europeans and Americans and others who've taken the book to heart of what I think is happening. But I don't intend, I've done my best shot at it. And my own view is that after that, you have to live the life that you ought to live in the civilization you enjoy. And you see, it's more than enjoyment, obviously, isn't it? One of the problems, one of the things I wish one could communicate better to people is that all the things that they think are excluding people are not. They're offering people the best chance they'll ever have in their lives to get to civilization, or civilization to get to them. And when people rail against things like this city we're sitting in, think that it epitomizes capitalism and patriarchy and racism and more, I just think, I wish more people could take the attitude that I've taken throughout my life to these things, which is, you don't have to be tub-thumping, you don't have to be a wild flag-waving patriot or anything like that. But your attitude should be gratitude. I mean, it's not as if this is nothing. The city we're sitting in is enough for a whole lifetime, and a very, very well-lived lifetime. And it's all there. All of the literature, the books, the art, the thought, the music, everything, it's there. And all you have to do is to reach out and take it and be part of it. And that seems to me, in this culture of hatred and this thing I go into in the Madness of Crowds, of this just endless zero-sum hatred and bitterness and blame, is just to turn that around and say, how about feeling grateful? Because what we have is a blip in human history to have the right to have. And we would be so damn stupid to give it away for nothing.
Douglas Murray, author of The Strange Death of Europe and the Madness of Crowds, thank you.
Thank you.
For Uncommon Knowledge, the Hoover Institution, and Fox Nation, I'm Peter Robinson.